Imagine a meticulously planned raid, deep behind enemy lines, where every second counts and the target holds the keys to an entire region's security. What secrets did they uncover, and how did it shatter an empire's defenses? The Zu-232 anti-aircraft gun never fired. Its crew didn't even reach it. A single AGM-114 Hellfire missile obliterated the anti-aircraft position near the South Park gate. The second Hellfire tore into a guard tower above the west wall, its debris still airborne as the first explosion settled. Even before the explosions cleared, Delta Element was already engaged. Mk-11 Mod 0 rifles dropped sentries on the North Road. M240B machine guns swept the East Guard post. A Carl Gustaf M3 round collapsed the Desheshk heavy machine gun position on the west corner, and an AT-4 tore through the bunker covering the north tunnel entrance. 4 weapon systems, 4 targets. Just 1 second separated the first missile from the last round fired. This was western Iran, 41 kilometers west of Tehran, at 5:10 inches the morning. 92 Rangers from the 75th Ranger Regiment were closing in on an IRGC command compound, deep within a hardened security zone. Inside lay 318 defenders, blast doors between every level, an escape tunnel built into the foundation, and one man at the center of it all, the IRGC commander directing internal security for the capital region. 4 weeks of satellite surveillance, intercepted communications, and vehicle pattern analysis had confirmed his presence. The mission: 90 minutes to take him alive, strip his command network bare, and extract. Some Iranian guards sprinted toward the inner defense lines, while others fired blindly into the slopes, shooting at muzzle flashes that kept moving. The outer defense had been designed to absorb an airstrike and hold until relief forces arrived. It was not designed for 8 simultaneous points of contact, with no gap between the opening strike and boots on the ground. Alpha Element was already moving. The last 80 meters to the south gate vanished in a dead sprint as 26 Rangers converged on a concrete barrier line where AK-74 rifles and a PKM machine gun awaited. Alpha dropped flat. Mk-18 CQBR carbines answered the barrier with controlled pairs, while an Mk-48 Mod 0 suppressed the PKM crew from the left. A Ranger breacher covered the remaining distance, placing a shaped charge on the gate lock. Pull back. Detonation. The left panel snapped inward. Grenades flew through the gap before the smoke could settle. Alpha surged into the vehicle checkpoint. A wounded guard tried to swing the inner barrier shut, but a Ranger put a round through the control box. The barrier froze halfway, and Alpha pushed through the gap without slowing. The time was 5:14. Bravo hit the west service entrance. The steel door was sealed behind 2 parked trucks. Iranian forces fired down from a repair bay with AK-74 rifles and an RPG-7 aimed at the approach lane. Sustained M249 saw fire pinned the elevated position, volume over precision, with no pause, as a breacher laid det cord under the nearer truck axle. The detonation lurched the truck sideways, opening the lane. C4 on the lower hinge plate peeled the door wide enough for 2 men at a time. Bravo flooded through in pairs, clearing the first workshop in a flat 90 seconds. The motor pool alarm began screaming across the compound, loud enough to confirm Bravo was exactly where the defenders hoped they wouldn't be. The time was 5:18. Charlie Element reached the north tunnel after the operation's hardest climb. Wire obstacles and a low concrete shelter housing a PKM covered the final approach. Rounds snapped off rock as Charlie went prone behind retaining walls. A linear charge cut the wire obstacles in one detonation. Charlie surged uphill before the echo cleared. An AT-4 round blew the concrete shelter's roof off. A shaped charge on the tunnel door blasted it inward, and Charlie entered before the structure finished falling. 10 minutes in, 3 fights raged inside the walls. one outside. Iranian officers had already called for 2 reaction platoons from nearby barracks, the reinforcement plan meant to stabilize the compound. Delta ended it on the outer road. A Javelin missile destroyed an armored SUV accelerating toward the south roadblock. An M2 Browning tore through a pickup truck full of guards on the east approach. The relief force ceased to exist before it became relevant. Inside the admin block, Alpha drove toward the command stairs. The corridor was defended by 2 firing pockets cut into the side walls, PKM fire filling the hall. No center lane approach was possible. Alpha used the walls instead. An Mk-48 was rested on a coffee machine for a firing platform and hammered the left pocket. A grenade rolled into the right recess, ending the threat. Farther up the hall, a blast door began sliding shut. 2 Rangers jammed a steel bar into the track. A third fixed C4 at the base and fired it. The guide rail bent, and the door froze half open. Alpha climbed through. Bravo hit the detention wing simultaneously. Iranian forces had stacked steel lockers and equipment carts into a barricade, with 2 RPG-7 teams positioned behind it. The first rocket hit the ceiling, filling the passage with concrete dust. Bravo kept moving through it. A charge under the center brace threw the barricade backward. Rangers closed the remaining distance in under 60 seconds, cleared 3 hallways and 2 guard rooms, and cut the lock system for the detention doors. The time was 5:26. Charlie reached the generator floor. Pipes and cable trays lined both walls. Overturned control consoles were stacked into a firing position. AK-74 rifles shooting through the gaps. Saw bursts worked the barrier from the front, while a shaped charge folded the center section backward. Rangers pushed through the smoke. 3 Iranian defenders broke for the escape corridor. At the far end of the tunnel, the first steel gate was already closing, and the man the Rangers came for was somewhere below it. The gate was almost shut. A breacher reached the locking wheel with C4 and removed it from the equation. Charlie moved into the passage beyond before the debris stopped bouncing. The time was 5:30. Alpha burst onto the main command floor. The chamber opened into a wide space with map tables, radio stations, and emergency lighting throwing hard, angular shadows. 28 guards held the room from behind desks, support pillars, and steel filing cabinets arranged in overlapping arcs. Alpha didn't look for a clean approach. One fire team took the side stair and reached the balcony above, while the second drove down the center aisle behind Mk-48 suppression. A third crossed behind a map wall and arrived on the defender's flank before the guards on the balcony understood the room had already been split 3 ways. Staff officers dropped flat. Guards kept firing from habit. By the far end of the floor, the Iranian position was receiving fire from directions that shouldn't be possible, and it was losing ground to all of them. The time was 5:34. Bravo secured the detention wing and found 19 political prisoners behind locked cell doors. 4 Rangers held the wing. The rest pushed into the signal corridor linking the motor pool to the command floor. 16 guards were inside, with PKM machine guns anchoring both ends of the passage. The ground-level approach was completely covered. Bravo didn't use the ground. A maintenance ladder led to an overhead walkway. Saws opened fire from above on the front of the position at the same moment Rangers on the walkway hit the rear. 11 defenders went down in under 2 minutes. Survivors retreated behind a security gate. A pry bar went into the track. C4 on the hinge. The gap that opened was barely passable, but Rangers forced through it anyway. The time was 5:38. Charlie heard engines in the escape tunnel. Then headlights appeared around the bend. A convoy moving fast. 14 bodyguards, 6 signal officers, and the IRGC commander were in the middle of the formation, already inside the tunnel and trying to put distance between himself and the compound above. An AT-4 round hit the lead SUV and stopped the convoy where it stood. bodyguards spilled out from the vehicles and opened fire with AK-74 rifles and a PKM from behind the burning wreck. Charlie answered from a concrete divider. M4A1 SOP-Mod 2 fire worked the near side while an MK-48 suppressed the PKM position. 9 bodyguards went down. 3 more dragged the IRGC commander behind the second vehicle and started pulling him toward a side passage that branched off the main tunnel wall. For a moment, the side passage looked like a way out. Charlie found the service hatch on the right wall, a maintenance access point that opened into the same passage from behind. Through the hatch, moving fast and low, they arrived behind the bodyguard group before they had covered half the distance to the passage entrance. The exit was blocked. The IRGC commander was between the Rangers and the wall, with nothing left between him and capture except 3 men who were no longer in a position to help him. The time was 5:41. The tunnel went quiet except for the sound of zip ties. Above ground, the situation sharpened one final time. Delta reported a larger relief force pushing hard from the east. 43 Iranian troops in 5 trucks and 2 armored SUVs. A dedicated extraction attempt, moving faster than the first column had. Delta opened fire from the overpass while the column was still beyond effective RPG range. A Javelin missile took the lead armored SUV and stopped the column's momentum instantly. An M2 Browning and MK-19 grenade launcher tore through the trucks stacking up behind it. The road was sealed by burning vehicles in under 90 seconds. The time was 5:42. Alpha finished clearing the command floor. 6 guards went down behind workstations and cabinet rows. 4 surrendered beside the radio room with their hands visible. Alpha secured the main map boards, encryption gear, and every drive unit in the upper offices. Bravo reached the signal corridor junction from the west side and linked with Alpha. A continuous Ranger line now ran from the south gate through the level. Iranian forces inside the compound were isolated pockets, cut off from each other, unable to pass a message, let alone coordinated defense. The time was 5:46. Charlie closed the last distance in the tunnel. 1 bodyguard tried to reach a side door and didn't make it. Another raised a pistol, but was neutralized before it came level. A flash grenade went past the second SUV and detonated at the rear bumper. The concussion stunned everyone sheltering behind it. Rangers closed from 2 directions at once. 3 bodyguards went down at the vehicle's rear. 2 signal officers put their hands up and stayed flat. The IRGC commander came out from behind the axle, disarmed, zip-tied, and searched in sequence. Documents, coded devices, a satellite phone still warm, laptops, encrypted radios, and map cases from the convoy went into sealed intelligence bags before anyone had time to inventory them. 4 senior aides, 3 radio operators, 2 bodyguards, all alive, all in custody. By 5:50, every objective the Rangers came for was in U.S. Army hands. The commander who ran Capital Region security was on the tunnel floor in restraints. The network he used to run it was either captured or about to burn. The time was 5:54. 29 Iranian troops pushed under PKM cover toward the breached west entrance, the last coordinated attempt coming from the east service lane. Delta engaged them from the flank before they reached the wall. MK-11, Mod 0, fire opening without warning from a position the attacking force hadn't identified. Bravo joined from the workshop doorway with M4A1, SOP Mod 2 carbines, and a saw locking down the approach lane. The attack splintered in under 2 minutes. 8 Iranian soldiers were down, the rest dropping behind parked vehicles and staying there. After that, the compound produced no more organized movement. The silence that followed wasn't peace. It was the specific quiet of a defense that had run out of options and knew it. The time was 5:58. Demolition teams moved through the command center, placing thermite charges onto radio racks, server stacks, and document vaults. The resulting white, Sustained heat produced no dramatic explosions, only irreversible destruction working through every system the command center used to function. C4 was fixed to the inner stair locks, the lower communications trunk, and the vehicle bay control boards. The critical intelligence, hard drives, printed orders, call logs, encryption keys, and the map cases from the tunnel convoy, was already moving toward the extraction zone in sealed containers. Everything else remaining behind was being prepared for destruction. At 6-2, Alpha withdrew through the south route, with 7 wounded Rangers and 12 prisoners moving ahead of them. By 6-4, Bravo moved the 19 released detainees and 8 captured guards through the west service entrance, the same door they had peeled open 94 minutes earlier. At 6-6, Charlie moved north through the tunnel with the IRGC commander, 4 senior aides, and the electronics cases recovered from the convoy. The man who had directed internal security for Tehran's capital region walked out of his own escape tunnel in zip ties, escorted by the Rangers who found him at the end of it, surrounded by the bodyguards who had failed to stop them. At 6:18, the demolition sequence fired in stages. Thermite burned through the server infrastructure first, quiet, relentless, the kind of destruction that leaves nothing recoverable. Then C4 shattered the lower switching room and dropped debris across the escape lane. Smoke pushed from the north tunnel vents. Flames rose from the west workshops and spread into the motor pool as vehicle fuel caught fire from the heat moving through the structure. Secondary blasts rolled through parked vehicles in sequence. Delta broke contact from the outer walls and fell back toward the extraction zone in measured bounds, one element holding while another moved, all the way to the landing zone. At 6:34, 5 UH-60 Blackhawks settled onto a dry field 1 kilometer north of the compound. Apaches held the perimeter above as Rangers loaded prisoners first, then the released detainees, then intelligence bags in sealed cases. By 6:40, all 92 Rangers, 32 captured personnel, 19 freed prisoners, and the IRGC commander were aboard, and the aircraft were lifting off. The Black Hawks turned west, away from Tehran. Iranian reinforcements reached the outer roads at 6:49, 9 minutes after the last helicopter cleared the field. They found smashed guard towers, burning vehicles, broken gates, wrecked checkpoints, and a command center that had gone completely dark. The compound's walls were still standing. Everything the walls had been built to protect was gone, either in zip ties aboard a Blackhawk or reduced to slag by thermite charges. Tehran's response arrived before sunrise, and it was not what Iranian state media broadcast publicly. State television announced the compound had been struck by foreign aggressor forces and declared the attack an act of war requiring a full response. Behind that announcement, something more urgent was happening inside the IRGC's own chain of command. Every officer connected to the seized commander's network was placed under internal review within hours. Communication protocols across the capital security zone were suspended entirely, not modified, but suspended while new ones were built from scratch. Safe houses linked to the commander's operational network were quietly vacated. Patrol schedules that had been fixed for months were abandoned and rebuilt from zero. 3 senior IRGC officers were removed from their posts before the morning briefing. Their replacements were announced publicly, a deliberate signal directed inward as much as outward, indicating that the failure had consequences. In the Gulf, Iranian naval assets repositioned. Fast attack boat flotillas that had been on routine patrol moved to forward staging points. U.S. Navy destroyers operating in the Strait of Hormuz tightened formation and elevated their readiness posture. The carrier group that had provided the night's air support remained in theater and had not altered its position. The final cost of the operation: 4 Rangers killed, 11 wounded. On the Iranian side, 97 killed, 54 wounded, and 32 captured. 1 emergency command center was destroyed, along with 2 radio nodes, 1 motor pool, 7 vehicles, 2 Desheshk heavy machine guns, and 1 Zu-232 anti-aircraft gun. Communications and security infrastructure valued at approximately $212 million vanished in 90 minutes. But the number that doesn't appear in any damage estimate is the one that matters most to Iranian commanders right now. The map cases, laptops, encrypted radios, coded devices, and satellite phone taken from the escape convoy contained the working architecture of an entire district's internal security network. This included contact lists, safe house locations, patrol schedules, relay protocols, and command relationships that were active and current at 5:38 on the morning the Rangers arrived. The IRGC commander had been running that network in real time when Charlie found him at the end of his own tunnel. Iranian security teams are now frantically changing every protocol connected to what he knew. New codes, new locations, new contact chains are being built without reference to the old ones. The critical question they cannot answer, being worked on right now in rooms that don't appear on any public record, is whether the intelligence those Rangers carried out of that tunnel moved fast enough to reach its targets before the protocols changed, and whether the map cases contained addresses that are still current.